Podcasts. Thank you for listening to the number one podcast in the world that we help athletes develop proficiency, assisting their passion for the game they love. We have some great responses from listeners. I want to say thank you for listening and downloading. Please keep passing the word about our podcast we're doing here on Spotify and also on iTunes. Today, we're going to be talking about basketball. Yes, basketball, b-ball. We're going to be talking about business. We're going to talk about nonprofits. We're going to talk about overseas talent and much, much more. Today's episode is episode 65. 65. He's a player, a coach, a manager, a former NBA academy coach with demonstrating history of working with in the sports industry. He's coaching as well. He's an event manager, a fundraiser, a sports marketing, and a marketer. Also, believe it or not, this guy has also worked with the Golden State Warriors youth development, also in San Francisco, California. I love it because I'm a 49ers fan. And anyway, basketball skills developed when working with 6-year-old through 18-year-old. He has a facility. He manages clinics as well and camps in the Bay Area always. And also he conducts learning lessons as well. But there's another thing that he does that most people don't know about. He has a book. It's called Ball to Books, and we're going to get into that as well. He also has a nonprofit. It donates school supplies under resources schools and organizations. He manages social media accounts and marketing. And without further ado, let's bring on the very own Andrew Heath. How you doing, Andrew?
I'm good. I'm good, Coach. I appreciate. Yeah, I figured I'd call you Coach. That's what
Yeah.
everyone else calls you. I'm good, man. I appreciate you making the time, especially post Super Bowl, to have this conversation. So I'm
Yes.
good, man.
Yeah, it's Super Bowl night, by the way, everybody. Listen to this. This is Super Bowl night. So we're making this happen just for you because I know all these people have been listening, get some great responses. But we're going to talk basketball today. Normally we talk baseball, we talk about life, we talk about a lot of things, but today we'll talk about basketball. So, Andrew, can you like tell the listeners, because you're in the Bay Area, what was it like playing basketball in the California area when you first started in high school?
Well, yeah, man. It's funny enough. I actually, I'm a kind of a transplant here in the Bay. Definitely call the Bay Area home now. But grew up on the East Coast, uh, playing basketball in Connecticut, and then went to college in Boston. Played basketball over there. But
Oh,
uh, Bay Area basketball, I think, is an interesting scene. In particular, I think currently live in San Francisco. I think San Francisco basketball, compared to the rest of the Bay, is still developing and growing. We
okay.
we definitely have some talent here. We have some good players, um, but I think if you're looking for your like blue chip Division
Right.
One, going to the next level, it's not directly in San Francisco. It's
Okay.
kind of like the surrounding areas of the Bay Area.
Okay.
Um, but no, it's been, I think, coaching and living here has been great with that. I think growing up on the East Coast, especially when I was coming up, it was like the old school Big East, with like Allen Iverson at Georgetown and Ray Allen at UConn and
That's right.
those great UConn teams with like Ben Gordon and Emeka Okafor. Um, so it wasn't this cross country, you got the USC and the Big Ten and
Right.
all this other stuff. So it was definitely a little more old school feel. People didn't shoot as much threes
Yeah. Yeah.
growing up when I played. But no, it was fun, and I definitely think I try to bring some of that East Coast mentality and history to the West Coast now. I think more from a coaching standpoint. So even though I'm out here, I'm still a big fan of like UConn and Dan Hurley.
That's good.
Still
Good.
follow all the just like old school East Coast coaches like Pitino, Calhoun definitely,
Who
Boeheim
else?
as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
So I try to bring
Yeah.
all those guys over to the East Coast for sure. From the East Coast over to the West Coast.
Yeah. That's good, man. I mean, because I didn't know you're from the East Coast. I'm actually from Chicago, which I'm actually now in South Florida, which we know that, and it's
Yep.
different. I try to bring a little that Midwestern swag to
Mm,
South Florida, and it's hard. It's hard, not hard to give it. It's hard for them to receive it. Let's put it
yep.
that way,
There you
because they're
go.
so used to a certain swag of doing
Yep.
things. Because I'm from Chicago, so I'm gonna go ahead and throw this out here. So for you, I was
Yep.
born and raised to play basketball.
Yeah, of course. Of
So,
course.
because my
Chi-town,
dad,
man.
yeah, Chi-Town is basketball. People
Yep.
says, well, there's so much talent in baseball. Yeah, I don't know about that. I like you just talk about San Francisco. You would think because of the Warriors, they would be like, hey, we got hoopers all over. But
Yeah.
coming from the Midwest is a little different. Like coming from East Coast, and I have a lot of East Coast people that I know, and I associate very well with East Coast people. I don't know what it is about East Coast and Midwest. I just click instantly with that East
I think
Coast.
it's because we got the seasons, man. You got to go through like just a cold winter, right? I think it just it tests you out. It makes you reconsider stuff. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think that too, because my parents actually, my dad's from Michigan, my mom's
Ooh.
from Indiana. So I think even though I'm
Oh.
an East Coast kid, I got some Midwestern roots
Mm.
through my parents.
You're right. You're
So I can
exactly
definitely
right.
relate to that.
So,
Yeah.
but now you got a little bit better weather in San Francisco. It's a little bit better for you, just a little bit. It's not as freezing when we put more of the word to it
Yeah. Yeah,
because
yeah, no. Honestly, like the coldest it might get is like low 40s out here.
oh yeah yeah
Um,
yeah
and then it doesn't get in San Francisco probably doesn't get like maybe like mid 80s is the
right
hottest it'll get, but it's
mm-hmm.
probably honestly most of the year between like high 50s and like mid 70s.
Okay, so jacket weather basically. It's like
Yeah,
jacket
yeah,
weather.
yep, yep,
Jacket
exactly.
weather, jacket weather. I
Yeah,
get it. I get it. I mean, that's because I wanted to talk about your beginning. The genesis when you started doing this, like when you started playing basketball up in the
yep.
in the East Coast. My question to you is, how was you recruited? Were you created highly? Was your walk different compared to today? What was that like? That tell us about that transition.
Yeah, no, it's interesting now. I think especially I currently coach high school basketball, so helping the current kids I coach go through the recruiting process and stuff. I think my current coaching experience now is making me appreciate my own high school experience more. So I went to a very competitive like Catholic powerhouse high school in Connecticut.
Okay.
So each year there was never a year we didn't send kids to college to play basketball,
Oh, that's good.
uh, which is great. And I think for me, it developed me a lot quicker. I was exposed to a very competitive environment from like eighth grade, ninth grade. Like I knew what it took to get to the next level.
Oh,
Um, but then I think also it took me a while to kind of appreciate my own skill set and own skill level because honestly, I was like, oh, if I'm not going to Duke or if I'm not going to the NBA, then I'm a scrub, right? And I think,
oh,
after I have my own career and, I played where I played and got a chance to play overseas and now coach, I'm like, oh, I'm kind of recognizing and realizing like there are definitely levels to stuff.
correct.
And I was just in a very competitive environment at a very young age. Um,
Mm,
but no, I think for me in high school, I think I was exposed to very high levels of basketball, very high levels of competition. Um, so I think now I recognize like what I kind of want to trickle down to my own team and
mm-hmm.
give them because it everyone isn't going to be blessed with certain genetic traits or physical traits and
Correct.
um, while I do think there are certain skill sets, I'm sure it's the same in baseball where it's like
Correct.
you
Mm-hmm.
can work on hitting, you can work on pitching, but for whatever reason, there are just certain people who seem to throw that curveball just naturally, right? Or we
That's right.
could right we can work on your jump shot, but for whatever reason, this kid just seems to naturally pick it up a little bit quicker than the
That's
rest of
right.
the kids.
Mm-hmm.
So understanding that and recognizing that, I think I'm trying to implement that with my own team of like, how can I give them the same just like competitive mindset and environment
Right.
that I was exposed to? Because I think that was the biggest thing I was taking away from that time period for me was the competitive level or the competitiveness level from my peers,
Mm-hmm.
um, and just really having to like fight for your spot. Nothing was really
Give it
given,
to you. Right.
um, whether it was playing time, recruiting opportunities, going. I went to all the exposure camps, and then back then when I was in high school, the invitational camps were really invitational. So there
Right.
wasn't like you paid to go or you paid a coach or you
Correct.
paid. Now there's like a lot of like social media stuff where you can pay people to make highlight tapes for you. It was you really had to be scouted, invited to the camp, and then if there was a highlight tape of you, you were really that dude. Like
Correct.
like now,
Right.
um,
Everybody have a highlight tape.
everyone has a highlight tape. So no, so I think that kind of shaped and molded me into the player I turned out to be and the coach I am now. Where I think I do have to find a balance of giving my players credit and being impressed by the stuff that they do. Because I definitely grew up in, you could drop 30 points, but it was like, who did you drop it against? Where
Right.
did you play? What coaches were watching? All that went into how how real was the 30 points that you
I got
dropped.
you. I got you.
But yeah, no, yeah, grew up East Coast. Like I said, it was kind of like old school East Coast. Ended up going to a small school in Boston. Was a two-sport athlete there. Played basketball, ran track. Um, and yeah, no, I think it was definitely just a different time period where there wasn't as much social media coverage.
Correct.
Um, I just think coaches talk to their players in a different manner back then, in a different way.
Yes.
Um, so much more direct,
Mm-hmm.
not as much concern for how you might take the message.
That's right.
I
That's
guess
right. That's right. You're
that's a good
right.
way to put it. It's just
You're right.
as the coach, I'm gonna tell you how I feel.
I
I'm gonna tell
mean,
you what I want you. I'm not really concerned on
how
how
you
you take
feeling?
it.
That's right. That's right.
Um, so it now fast forward, it is just a completely different landscape
Right.
coaching the kids today.
Right.
Whether you're I'm not coaching, at least for my high school team. I'm not coaching like you know the all American kids.
Correct. Correct.
But even hearing those coaches, you just have to approach the kids different today than you did 20
Mm.
years ago.
Wow. I mean, I got to drink to this one because I coach totally the opposite of what today's society is.
Mhm.
I'm totally different. I give you the raw stuff, but I'm
Yep.
clean. You know, I don't
Yep.
believe in cursing at a kid. I don't yell at a kid, but I give them that look.
Yep.
Because once I tell you something, my yes means yes, and my no means no, and it's not changing.
Right.
And so, it's a little different because, you know, I also coach at a private school.
Hmm.
So when you coach at a private school and it's a Christian school, you can get away with speaking direct, clean, and godly. And that's just something I do in general. But it's funny you said that because I didn't go to a high school that I went to a public school,
Yep.
and it was like 700-800 people per class.
Yep.
So it was like a 3,500 people in the whole school. Like
Yep.
just that's just people. That's I mean students. We're not talking about the staff.
Yep.
So you like you said, I agree with you because sometimes being a coach can be a challenge because you're dealing with not just the kid, you're dealing with the upbringing they have been developed, the
Yep.
lack thereof, or whatever the case may be. And it doesn't have to mean that the kid had an issue. It's just circumstances happen.
Yep.
They're just circumstances. I have learned to navigate through those waters. Let's navigate through those waters because we know that. But the one thing I've learned about dealing with people when you're a coach is just tell them the truth in the beginning. Now they may not accept it, and they may say, "Well, he's mean," sound like he's mean, but at least this is an East Coast and a Midwestern thing. You know how I feel.
Right.
You know
Yes.
how I feel, and you
Yes.
ain't gotta. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it because I'm not gonna say something just to make you happy, and then all of a sudden, we can't make everybody happy anyway. You know that.
Right.
Life is not that way, but I believe in the truth. Just being honest, and the truth should set you free. I mean, whatever, because there's things that people tell me I don't like, Andrew. There's things that people tell me it hurts, but I've learned to. I got thick skin. Let's just put it that way.
Yep.
Like you said, you talk about the old school coaches. When you come from a father that was military and in your face all the time, yes sir, don't just and he had friends and uncles and they're like they're like on you. They don't care.
Yep.
So that kind of embedded in me. Doesn't mean that it was correct, but it helped me develop as a man.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say. It helped me develop as a man. You talked about going to that school and going to college, your college, and my question to you, when you went to college, so was that transition from college to the next level harder or easier because you had it so easy in high school?
I think The easy transition was the competitive mindset and just approach. I think the hard part, which I think like most athletes from high school and college can attest to, is just the time management, and now you're in control of your own schedule.
Mm,
Um, so high school is pretty right. You have your classes after school. You got your practice or you got your games, and then your coaches email well back then your coaches is telling you like we have lifting, we have film,
correct.
and that's that. In college, there's just so much more free time, right? So you have your classes, and even with the jam-packed schedule, I know a lot of athletes will talk about how it is a full-time job, which it is, right? You have your film, you have your lift, you have your practice, you have your games,
Mm-hmm.
but there's just so much more free time.
Right.
There's so much more free time. So you might have, I remember, so this is like a literal schedule. We might have a 5 a.m. like track workout to go run. And then after that, we might have a lift. So
Correct.
we might run from like, or wake up at 5, run from like 5:30 to 6:30. Then we might lift from like 6:30 to 7:30, eat breakfast, go back, change in time to make my 8 o'clock class. Then that might be my one class for the day.
Correct. Correct.
So then I'm just
All this free
free.
time. Free time.
I'm just free from, let's say, even if it's like a 3 hour class. So from 8 to 11 I have class,
And
but
you
then
done.
from like 11 to 4 I might have nothing to do, and then 4 o'clock we have our actual team practice, and then go from there. So I think it was just more of the time management stuff, and um, I think that was the biggest transition from me of how do I make sure I'm getting my classwork done? How do I make sure I'm getting up my extra shots?
Mm-hmm.
I think for any sport, not even basketball, you want to get in your extra reps, and so there may not be a person telling you to get
What
in
to
your
do.
extra reps,
Right.
right?
Right.
Whether you're doing batting practice, getting up extra shots, you're the football quarterback, have to get your extra routes in with your wide receivers. Who's telling you and encouraging you to do that?
Correct.
I think that was definitely my first like year and a half of just realizing like, oh, like no one's going to tell you to do the extra stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at the collegiate level too, it's we're going to have a new class coming in next year. So if you don't perform or do your stuff, yeah, we're not going to kick you off the team per se, but no, we got another freshman coming in next year who, you
Right.
know,
That's hungry.
it's
He's
going to work
hungry.
it. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So,
You're right because You're talking. You're speaking my language because I mean, you're actually educating some of the listeners because the young kids they think, oh, he got it good. Well, you got it good today. That
right.
don't mean tomorrow's gonna be the same because at the end of the day, um, someone's always gonna be better than you, and someone's
Hmm.
gonna be more hungry than you. But the
Yeah,
question is, how big is your heart?
yeah,
That's. I'm speaking from a coach's perspective. How
yeah,
big is your heart? Because your heart would tell me who you really are.
yeah,
I'm just saying that because I started thinking about it. Everybody has talent. Doesn't
yeah,
mean that they're doesn't mean they're at the same level, but they all have talent.
yeah,
Like you talked about in the beginning of the episode. You talked about talent far as basketball players. Some guys can just shoot lights out, and some people can just jump out the ceiling, and
right.
some people got great handles.
Yeah,
And some people are just great defenders, and
yep,
some can't do it. But like you said earlier, you got to find out what is your niche and master your niche. That's just something I talk about all the time. Master your niche. Find out what
hmm,
you're. Well, I don't know what it is, coach, because you ain't spending enough time. You're thinking about what's on social media and Instagram instead of thinking about what has God blessed you with. What is your gift? What has God given you? Because
yeah,
once you figure that out, then you're on your way to success. Doesn't mean that you're going to be an NBA player. Now you might
right.
be able to go overseas, or you might be able to go, do some other things, but
Yeah,
and you might be able to go play NBA. I don't know that. I'm not here to tell you
right.
what you can and cannot do, but based on what you're saying, I mean, my question is to you is about high school basketball players, and we know you're a coach, and you do a little bit more than coaching. How do you can you motivate a kid in high school to get to the next level, or they just got to have it from your perspective? We know the answer, but educate the listeners.
Yeah, I think it is a little bit of everything where like I can show you the way, I can show you the light, but at the end of the day, it's up to that individual. Um, yeah. I can give you all the workouts. I can literally go to the gym with you and rebound. I can go to the
Right.
weight room with you and show you what lifts to do. Um, but if you don't want to show up and do it,
Mm,
then you're not going to make it. And then also honestly too, I've had some kids where um, they have been good enough to play after high school,
mm-hmm.
but it's like, do you want to do this for me or your family, or like do you individually want to do it? Because then also, even talking to some of the coaches, like, don't tell the kid this obviously, but behind the scenes it's like, hey, we don't know if so and so is going to last because we don't think they love this. And
Mm,
I think to kind of to your point, you get to a level, and I think that's the other transition in high school. Not everyone's as fast as you or as strong as you or can shoot as you. When you do get to the next level, everybody is as fast. Everybody can throw the ball as fast. Everyone can jump as high.
right.
The sometimes the separators are who just cares more,
Mm-hmm.
who is good with their time management and is getting in the extra reps.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so no, to your question, I think as a coach, yes, I can show you the way. I can push you in the direction, but at the end of the day, if that person doesn't want to do it or doesn't want to do the work mostly by themselves, then it's really not going to work out.
Mm. Well, and I'm listening to what you're saying, but I'm just thinking about a scripture, and it's in John 8:32. It's saying the truth shall set you free.
Hmm.
You know, and like we talked about the Midwest, we talked about East Coast, California. I just like people to tell me the truth.
Yep.
And I hope, pray that these people that listen to this podcast, the truth shall set you free. You know, you can get all the fluff you want to make you feel good today, but eventually, go back to what you just said. Basically, you're gonna get exposed. The bottom line, you're gonna say who you really are, because the heart will show me who you really are. And I've said that because I was thinking about what you're talking about. You're talking about so many great things that the listener's gonna. I mean, you give them nuggets, because a lot of times, on social media, let's just call it what it is. It's a lot of fluff,
Hmm.
and they're not telling you all the truth. They're leaving half truths.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, you're responsible for the information you give out to people. That's how I look at it. You're responsible for the information you give out to people, because your
Yep.
life should be a testimony and be a testament for someone else to make the next generation better. That's what I'm trying to say. You can't make the next generation better if you're lying. Okay, okay, Andrew, you look really good out here. And I'm like, why are you talking bad about the guy? Tell him the truth.
Right.
There's a way to say things.
Right.
It's different if I coach, like I said, I coach baseball, and I used to coach basketball. Matter of fact, when I first moved here, South Florida, that was my first job I got. My second job I got. First coaching job was coaching basketball, because I played it a little bit, but I just knew the game because of my father,
Hmm.
and my whole family played basketball. But it got me in the door. I knew eventually I was going to have to do something else, because um, I wanted to go to a higher level coaching basketball. But the question is, did I really want it? Like you said, go back to the heart issue.
Yep.
The heart tells me what I mean. And I was like, I kept looking at baseball, and I kept looking at it. And it's like teasing myself. So I was like, okay, man, all right, Lord, I'm going to surrender. Let me just go do it's in you. If it's in you, if God put it in you, like you said, God puts it in you, you can't fight it. It's gonna be exposed.
Yep.
Back to, like you just said earlier, we talked about that, but I wanted to give you another question that I think was pretty powerful. Have an opportunity to go play overseas.
Hmm.
Now, educate the listeners your process coming from a small school to where you
Yep.
had to go. And we know things are different because of social media, but if you can break that down.
Yeah. No, I think even back then, and I think even now, you have to produce in
Mm,
some way, shape, or factor at some moment. Um, I think it is easier now with social media to get more eyes on what you're doing, but at some point, you need to be in front of somebody and show them what you can showcase and do. Um,
Andrew, you don't tell can't give them no film.
you can, film does work. for sure.
right?
Uh, but yeah, no, my assistant college coach, because yeah, I guess to give more of the backstory, I was, had my college career. I honestly was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna just go get a
A regular
regular
job,
job and
right?
figure it all out. My college coach got in my ear and was like, hey, like, I think you're good enough to explore this opportunity. So why don't you like go to some exposure camps and stuff? So I went to some exposure camps. Did okay, got no bites from it, but then started working the exposure camps, and then I guess long story short, ended up finding my way in front of some people who were like, "You're good enough to do this," and got an opportunity to go play in China. Um, and then yeah, no, from that it is. I guess it is. I'm trying like to shorten the story. There's always like a moment where someone's like, oh, I was playing in front of so and so, but they didn't think I was good enough or whatever, blah 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 blah. I wasn't the best college player, but when there were moments to produce and play in front of scouts or coaches or GMs, it's like, okay, cool, this is my moment to show out and do something.
Mm,
I need to produce now,
right.
and I basically just took advantage of the moments that um, I was given. And so yeah, then I was able
Mm,
to play in China for about 3 years.
okay.
My coach over there was Rodney Hurd, who used to be a coach at Cal when Jay Kidd was there, and then he was actually on the coaching staff when the Bucks won the championship with Giannis.
Okay.
Um, so no, yeah, it just opened up all these doors and opportunities. But I think definitely if you're coming from a smaller school, and you'll kind of see it now, guys will get drafted into the NBA who are going to like the big time schools like Duke, Kansas, Michigan State, whatever. They might only average like 7 points, 8 points a game because they're playing at these big time schools. If you're coming from a smaller school, a smaller market, you got to produce at a higher level.
Mm,
It. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying it's perfect, but that's just the
right.
reality of what it is.
Right.
Um, and even if you're looking to go play in Argentina or Brazil or China, like you still need to be able to show you have some talent to be
Hmm.
able to do that stuff.
Right. Numbers don't lie, basically.
Exactly.
And you also basically raise to the occasion when the lights are on you. That's what you're
Yep.
trying to say.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, I'm listening to everything you're saying. I'm thinking, okay, this is great stuff. But the problem is, a lot of guys are showcase people. They showcase. They do great on showcases.
Yeah.
But then when the spotlight comes, when they come to that game, I mean, I've been doing this for a little while, and I'm hearing people, interview after interview after interview, and you're saying we're all saying the same thing. Just we just chop it up different, but it's the same. And I'm like,
Yep.
these guys got to listen. These guys and girls listen to this podcast have to understand it's not going to be given to you. And if it is given to you, you won't last long
Yep.
because much is given, much is required. And when you work for something, you have such gratitude, so such appreciation when you work for it. So that's why it's so hard for us to walk away from the game. When our time is up, we have a hard time walking away from it because we put so much grit and work and it's so much harder, playing overseas compared to the United States. Let me ask you another question about playing overseas. In your short stints, most people don't get a chance to do that. So that's good for you. Most people don't get a chance to play, period, after high school. My question to you is going overseas in China, what was the atmosphere like playing, being a minority in another country?
Oh man, that is I feel like it's a twofold question. I think one, just as a foreigner, um, you're not going to get any like leeway in terms of like calls or
Mm,
anything like that on the court. So um, if you think you got fouled going to the hole, unless you got like just absolutely obliterated and there's some blood showing, probably not gonna get the call. Vice versa. There was literally a story, or not? Yeah, there was an incident where I clean steal. I stole the ball from another player, about to start the fast break, go the other way and score. They called a foul and then kicked me out of the gym. Just straight up like, and like all I did was like steal the ball. They called a foul on me, and I just reacted a little bit like, oh what? And then boom, like boom, out the gym. Cool. Um, yeah, and then as definitely as a person of color in China, I
Right.
think there weren't any like horror stories compared to some of my other like friends I've heard playing in other countries,
Yeah.
but there definitely just was a naivety to just like my hair texture, like how I
Right.
dress, how I presented. So there would definitely be like and when I was in China, I had my hair was super long, so I'd be on the bench. I could feel people in the back, like trying to like touch my hair and stuff, and but
Oh.
nothing of like like no racial slurs
Yeah.
or people like saying like other hateful stuff, but definitely just some awkward questions or like awkward stares and stuff like that, or a few times we're like on the way to the game and I can we're on the subway, I can feel people like trying to take like hidden photos of us and like
Right.
seeing the flash go off. But yeah, no, but then I think just yeah, in general, in terms of whether you're a foreigner of color or just a white foreigner, there's no love lost on the court for sure.
Okay. Okay, that's good, man. That's good to know that because you're educating some guys that are trying to go overseas, and also girls that go overseas or they're
Yeah,
gonna go play baseball, basketball. It doesn't really matter because I mean, on my show, like I said, the name of my show is You Going Pro, and it doesn't say you going pro for basketball or you going pro for baseball. It's just that I specialize in baseball, but I'm
yeah,
open for all sports. Because we're trying to help athletes. That's all we're trying to do. I got a question for you since you played pro ball. Now, this is just an open book question.
yeah.
Give a definition of being a pro or proficiency. Being a pro or being proficient. What does that mean to you?
Oh, I think to touch on the early answer I gave, it is the ultimate time management and self motivation experience. I think internally, and then I think it becomes a business quickly right away. Um, so yeah, if you're not producing, there isn't a lot of reassurance, yeah, there's just no like motivation from other people to help you get back on your grind.
Mm,
Where in college and high school, if you have a bad game or if you have an off night, there's somebody there to
mm-hmm,
tell you you're doing good or you'll get the next one. If you have an off night wherever you're playing at, in all honesty, the coaching staff, the general manager, the owner of the team, they are looking for another player.
mm-hmm,
100%. Especially if you're new to the team or country, whatever else. Obviously, if you've been there for a while, if you've worked up a reputation, sure, you can have an off night, you'll be fine. But if you're 2 weeks in, three weeks in, and you go 2 for 12, oh yeah, like they're not kicking you off the team, but once again, they are looking at their Rolodex. Okay, who else
mm-hmm.
can we get over here? Um, and then yeah, I think from a time management perspective, um, it is 100%. You might have your team practice, maybe you have a team lift. I was pretty consistent on just getting my own lift in by myself, um, but then you just have the rest of the day to kind of get into whatever you want to get into. So I've seen very different players where some guys go to a country, they literally just go from their apartment to the gym, and that's it. They don't do any other exploration. I'm not doing any sightseeing. I'm not being a tourist. I am here to do my sport. So I just, I wake up, I do my routine, I go to the gym, I go home, I pop on my Netflix, whatever else. I just do that for the whole season.
Wow.
Um, I think I was more of the I want to experience the country. I want to experience what I'm doing. So, not saying every day, but it's like, oh yeah, like I'm in
Right.
China. Let me go see the Great Wall. All
Right.
right, let me
Right.
go see. Let me go see some of these temples. Um, so I figured I'd try to do that, explore some of the food, explore some of the different cities, and then I think you have a third which I think there's no right or wrong. I think each person does it differently. Then I think you have some people who are like, "Hey, I'm here to party. Let me, wake up, go to the go from the apartment to the gym. After the gym, I'm going to the club, and I'm just doing that the whole season." Um, so I think each person does it differently, but there's definitely if you aren't on top of your stuff yourself, there's no one to kind of check you
Mm,
or make sure you're doing the right thing.
I got you. I got you. So I'm gonna paraphrase it, everything you said, and just correct me if I'm wrong. Please do. Being proficient, or being a pro is being able to take responsibilities and get it to the highest level, being self motivated, and
Hmm.
doing it at the highest level all the time and consistent.
Yeah.
Basically, because you talked about that when you went to college, becoming
Yep.
from high school to college, basically, and I wrote down, you have to be, there's no one to motivate you in pro, be a pro.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
no, there's, to be a pro or be proficient in anything you do, I, you don't have high school coaches no more. You don't have college coaching. You're a professional. We're paying you to produce like a pro. And
Yep.
I wanted to throw that out there because wrote some notes down while you were talking. And that was a very good answer. I'm gonna go ahead and throw you a little curveball in here. I'll
Yep.
throw you. I'm trying to figure out basketball. Uh, we're gonna do a pick and roll right now. It's a pick and roll. It's, I want you to tell me, out of four guys, who is your Mount Everest basketball players of all time?
Ooh. Not my favorite. Like
Yeah,
literally just
your
four
favorite,
best.
your favorite four Mount Everest players.
Ooh.
I
Okay.
ask this all the time. I want to hear this. I want to hear it because I'm writing it down.
My four favorite, not the four best. I think those are two different
Yeah,
Mount Everest.
your favorite,
My
and
favorite,
tell why and say why. Tell me why.
my personal favorite. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first and foremost is Reggie Miller. I grew up
Reggie
huge
Miller.
Pacers fan. As I mentioned, right, my mom's from Indiana, so I spent a lot of my summers in Indiana visiting my family. Um, and that was when Reggie was like doing his thing with the Pacers, and then I thought I was gonna grow to be as tall as him. I'm about 6'2" right now. I
Okay.
thought I was gonna be 6'6", 6'7". Um, didn't quite get there, but definitely I think early phases like model my game after him and just like
That's good,
loved
man.
everything Reggie Miller for sure.
Reggie Miller.
Um,
Okay.
ooh, this is tough. Okay, yeah, yeah. Next would be Ben Gordon.
Ben Gordon. Okay, because he's
Ben
from the East
Gordon.
Coast. East Coast guy.
East Coast, played at UConn, grew up in New York, played for the Bulls for a long time. I think he won Six Man of the Year one year.
Yeah, 1 year.
Uh, Same thing. Once I realized I wasn't going to be 6'6", 6'7", I was like, I think I'm going to be about the same size as Ben Gordon. Let me try to like model my game after him. Um, yeah, no, just like loved his game. Super efficient. Wasn't like the flashiest with the ball, but like got to his spots, could score.
Oh yeah.
Um, and
He
then
was a
yeah, I think
playmaker too.
yeah,
He's a
yep.
playmaker.
Um, and then I think two more recent guys that I just like Devin Booker, a
Oh,
current
Devin.
guy. Um,
Why Devin Booker? If I
I
may
think
ask.
now he's starting to handle the ball more and be more of a point guard. But
Yes.
for me, before now with like KD and Bradley Beal, he was like an old school '90s two guard, like the
Right.
same size, same
Right.
build,
Right. Right.
like one two dribble pull ups. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he's really starting to like get into his game and expand his game. But I just love watching him play, and that's a lot of film I'll like share with some guys on the team because it's like look how he's scoring without having to do too much.
Correct.
And even with the ball in his hand, he can still get to his spots and rise up and shoot and score and
That's
stuff.
good.
Um,
Devin Booker.
and then my last favorite, once again, for people listening, these are my favorite, not best of all time. My personal
He's clearing
favorite.
the
So
record. Let's clear the record up, everybody. They're gonna
my,
be sending you texts and
yeah,
DMs.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what are you talking
I,
about?
there's a different list for all time great. This is
I
my
got
my,
you.
my own personal favorite. Um, and then fourth, this might be a complete wild card shot in the wild. Michael Beasley. Um,
Michael. Really, Michael
Michael
Beasley.
Beasley played at Kansas State, played in the league for a little bit. Um, just 100% just like pure hooper, can score, like 6'9", 6'10", can handle, can shoot, athletic. Once again, not saying the best player ever.
Right.
I just love I love watching him play
His game. You
basketball.
like his
Yeah,
game. You
exactly.
like his
Yeah,
game,
yeah,
and
yeah.
he's left-handed too. He's left-handed.
Exactly. Yep.
You
Yep.
like his game. You know,
Yep.
it's interesting because you like these guys will never ever be on anybody's Mount Everest in
No.
general, just in
Yeah.
general.
Yeah.
And
No.
Reggie, you pull up an old schooler. Reggie's the oldest one on here. Reggie's
Yep.
an old schooler, and you got a little bit of new school on there too. I mean, that's a pretty good list. I like it, man. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it's not a bad list at all. I mean, I'm gonna throw you another question. I got a couple more questions for you. Let me ask you
Yep.
this question. I mean, we all know that you played ball in China. You played also high school ball in the East Coast, and also played high school ball and also college ball. Can you tell us, share with us, one of your play of the days that nobody's seen that you can share with us? A play of the day, like a play that should be on ESPN. That you show as a player. We want to know. We want to hear it. Andrew Heath, give us a play. It can be in China or wherever.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, man. I'm trying to think.
You got it's a moment. These are moments for you. I'm trying to pull out some old school on that.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
He's thinking. He's
Yeah. I don't know if it was two play. Okay, one's a game, not necessarily a play.
okay.
Um, in China, it was the final game. It was like an NBA sponsored tournament. We
Okay.
were playing in Beijing, um, and the a lot of the stuff over there is like money based or like money incentive. So
Okay.
we're already getting paid to play in the game. If you win, you get X amount more. If you get the MVP for the game,
You
you
get
get
more.
X amount more.
Okay.
um, did not go into the game with any intentions, but I'm having one of the best games in my like career over there, and
Okay.
um, just hitting threes, scoring on people, getting to the cup. And it was also probably one like against a team that had like two 7-footers too.
Ooh.
So it's just there were some plays in that game that I was just like, oh, even in the moment, I was just like, oh, I'm playing really good basketball right now. It was just kind of just like
Right.
a like an out
You're
of
in the
body
zone.
experience.
You're in the zone.
Like,
You're in the zone.
yeah, 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 yeah. Just like floaters and runners and coming off screens and um, yeah. I wouldn't say like any like number one on like Sports Center top 10 or anything like that, but it was just like, oh, like I am playing really good quality basketball right now. Um, so yeah, and I still have like photos and like videos from that game.
How
Um,
many points did you score that game?
at 32 points that game.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember
32.
at 32 points. We actually didn't win the game, which is also why I remember it because
Oh, okay.
I was like, if we won the game, I definitely would have got MVP for the game and would have got the extra
Right.
incentive for it.
That's right.
Um, but no, I remember that. And then yeah, I think another time, for every reason this came to my mind. I think anytime you get your first dunk, I think is like a memorable moment. But I
Oh yeah.
remember my first like you start getting more athletic. Okay, I'm trying stuff out. My first time, I would just mess around with some boys, but I think it was my summer going into
Hmm.
summer going into college. Um, first time bouncing it off the ground, off the backboard, catch it, dunk it, two hands.
Two hands.
Um, once again, I'm not Michael Jordan like behind my head again, but
It's all
off the
right.
ground, off the backboard, catch it, put it in.
It's all good.
So
Hey, was it 1 foot or off 1 foot or 2 feet?
2 feet, two foot,
Okay,
two
you did
foot.
it 2 foot. Okay, okay. It's
Yeah,
easy to do off one. Two is hard. I think two is hard. Jumping off 2 feet. I just jump off one and just. I mean, I'm
aim it
six.
back.
I'm 6'2" and a half, almost 6'3". So I just. I mean, I guess I just have had a little ups back then. I mean, left-handed But I thought I was Magic Johnson back in the day anyway. So, because Magic was my man. I mean, but that is what it is, man. Let's talk about your business, as far as you going over doing clinics and things of that nature. What are some of the things that you specialize in? You can give the listeners, and also give your information out as well. Some things you specialize. We know what you do
Yeah,
in the Bay Area, but I want to talk about your business indirectly. Let's talk about
yeah.
that.
So yeah, it's named after myself, Andrew Heath Basketball. Do the player development training, which I think is like a big business now. So the one-on-one stuff from as young as I've done like 5 and 6 years old up to I've helped players prepare for the NBA draft and some WNBA players, and then do camps and clinics. And then since I've started, I've had the opportunity to do a bunch of international camps, as you mentioned, from the international network I've started and gained.
Mm,
Um, I think that the honestly the main thing, whether I'm doing the international camp or here domestically, is just emphasizing how much you can get done with the fundamentals. And I think there's a lot that's shown which is effective of like, do you see this combination move or do you see how this guy's finishing like this? Um, but I'll actually try to find clips of those same exact players. So I think a great one is like Kyrie Irving, and people will show like all the moves he does, and he is an amazing ball handler. I'll try to find games and footage where he's scoring 30 points and all of his points are off one or two dribbles. Um, so a lot of the camps and clinics I do are based off of that.
okay.
Yes, we will get into the more complex stuff, but can you master this fundamental stuff first?
Yeah,
Um,
I like that.
and then I think when I do the international camps, a lot of times people in those countries will be interested in attending the states, whether it's for high school or for college. So then I think a lot of it is educating those communities on the different levels
Hmm.
of high school and collegiate athletics.
Mm,
Um, so we kind of even touched on it a little bit. So
yeah.
if you move to San Francisco or Miami or Chicago, going to a public high school is different than going to a private high school. Going to a
Yes.
private high school might be different
Yes.
than going to a Catholic high
That's
school.
right.
And then even within the Catholic and private school sectors, there's different type of private schools, or different type
Correct.
of Catholic schools.
Correct.
Um, if you are a college-aged athlete, um, especially if you're coming from a different country, a lot of times all they do know are the Dukes and the UConns
In
and
North
the
Carolina or
UCLA's,
Michigan.
right? Which is nothing wrong with that, but it's like, hey, you could get a full ride to a Division II school, and like, and if your goal is to go play ball in the states and get a scholarship, it doesn't have to be at a Duke,
Right.
So don't
Right.
don't sell yourself short and
Hmm.
expose them into all that, and then right there's D1, there's D2, there's D3, there's NAIA, junior college, JUCO is a whole other realm where no
Yeah.
one has any clue about that. It's like, okay, cool, just having that conversation. Um, so a lot of times it's that, and then also coaching the coaches too. So um, I think one of the things that like the states are good at is athletics and sports. Um, so your average person, if you grew up in America playing whatever sport, basketball, baseball, football, tennis, golf, you might have just been exposed to more coaching and more grassroots stuff than a coach in another country. So a lot of times it is going to those places and showing them different plays, showing them different warm ups for the coaches, not even for the
Right.
kids.
Hmm.
Um, so that is a whole other part too. Well, I'll go and do a camp and clinic for the kids in the area, but then also might do just like a 1 day coaching clinic just to
Hmm.
coach up the coaches a little bit on
Okay.
um, X's and O's and stuff. And a lot of times it's just like culture or how to like prepare a team for the season and stuff like that. That's not even on the court stuff. So
Mm. So it's pretty in depth as far as I mean, you go really deep into it, and you're not just going out there saying, "Hey, meet me at the gym. Let's do some stretches. We're gonna do some. Let's do some windmill. Let's go some up downs and let's do a few shots and you're done. You do the real developmental. I think it's because your background coming from the East Coast and what you were taught, and so now you're trying to teach them. Because really you can't really appreciate the game unless you know what are you doing it for.
Right.
And like you talked about the parents, you talked about who are you doing this for? Are you doing it for yourself? And we talked about hunger. Are you still hungry? Because at the end of the day, we know that parents have to be involved. We know that. But the question is, like you said, and I agree with you, what does the kid really want to do? Is he doing
Yep.
it because daddy didn't play basketball or daddy didn't play baseball or whatever the case may be? Because I mean, we see it all. I see it all the time, like
Yeah.
almost every day. And I'm like, you seem like you're you're more excited than the kid is. And then like this, Andrew. I mean, you also work at a school, and you always know that eventually after that senior year, they're done.
Right.
They're done.
Yeah.
They're just not going to play. I mean, and unfortunately that happens, especially when the kid is gifted. Especially if the kid is gifted. I just
Yeah.
you know, like you said, you can only play for so long, but I'm going to play anyway because I'm going to college. So I'm going to go ahead and play anyway. I'm going to enjoy this ride while I'm riding it. That's
Yep.
just how I look at it. Um, couple more things. I got another thing I want to share a moment. Andrew, I try to do this every time this is Black History Month,
Hmm.
and I've just started doing this on quite a few episodes. I'm doing it every time I have a chance on an episode, and I call it the True Triple Play. You know, and with that, that means you got to tell the truth. Get three things about this person, the truth about them and some things they accomplished, and which we're talking about basketball, and I'm going to talk about the very first person that was inducted to the Basketball Hall of Fame, and it says his name was Chuck Cooper. Now, that's what it says. I'm going by what it says. Chuck Cooper was inducted. He played for the Boston Red Sox. I'm sorry, the Boston, the Boston Celtics. I said Red Sox. The Boston Celtics in 1950 to 1960. He played small forward and shooting guard. Times have changed because they don't use that word very much. Small
Yeah.
forward and shooting guard. He was inducted to the Basketball Hall of Fame in 2019. Also, there was another guy by the name, another woman by the name of Lucia Harris. She was the very first black woman inducted to the Basketball Hall of Fame, and that's in 1992. So that's the my true triple play. I try to make sure I get education during the show so people can learn something, not just hear something, but learn something about the history of all sports. It can be basketball, whatever the case may be, and you just happen to have a basketball guy. So I'm happy to share that. Very first guy was inducted to the first African American to play. I'm sorry, first African American to play in the NBA was Earl Lloyd. I apologize. That's Earl Lloyd was, and the very first one to be inducted was Chuck Cooper. That's your very own true triple play. But you said a whole lot of stuff. Let's talk about one more thing before we close it out. Let's talk about your nonprofit. You got a nonprofit that we haven't really touched at all on that. And what are some of the benefits that you give to the local community in San Francisco in the Bay Area with your nonprofit?
Yeah, no, it's called Balder Books. I started it with a friend of mine who I actually met doing one of the international camps with, and she's a co-captain for the Mexican national team for the women's team.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, no, it started off just like, hey, the conversation started off, what do you want to do, after your playing career? Like, how can we continue like being involved with sports? And it's like, oh, we should, give back to the communities we came from, and how can we help out with that? And it started off honestly during COVID with just like a social media challenge, um, of I'll donate to my local school, and then I'll tag 5 people on Instagram, and they'll do the same thing for their local schools. And um, within that first year, in that first challenge, we got about over 70 different schools in 5 different countries. Um, and
Wow.
then from there, we did a few clinics, a few free clinics, and we honestly thought, okay, cool. We did this thing, was kind of during COVID, maybe that's it. And then people kept asking, like, oh, when's the next thing? When's the next challenge? When's the next book drive? Um, so we just continue to do it. So this is our fifth year having Ball to Books up and running. And yeah, no, here in the Bay, I run a bunch of free basketball clinics and a bunch of book drives, and um, it is just an interesting kind of space to be in because I think now just not even basketball, but I think just youth sports in general are becoming so expensive, and not every kid can afford it. And I think definitely when both you and me were growing up, sports were like the
No,
like melting pot for like communities and races
correct,
and
correct.
ethnicities, and
That's right.
you would have people from different socioeconomic backgrounds playing together and being on the same team and having doing carpools, and it's just
Right,
becoming less and
right,
less of that.
right,
So I think that it started off with just like, hey, like I want to be able to give basketball training and clinics to kids who can't afford to pay for individual sessions or the AAU teams and whatnot. And then we've had chances to go and speak at schools and do book drives and close donations. So it's still growing, and I love that you just did the Black History spotlight of those two individuals, because
yeah,
that's one of the things that we also do on our social media pages of just educational resources and informing people on
right,
the different months. So right now, obviously, we're doing Black History Month. We do Hispanic Heritage Month. We do
yes,
API
I like it.
Heritage Month as well too. So definitely aligned with you on that same vantage point as well. But yeah, no, I think just being able to give back, and fortunate to be able to achieve the things I have, and definitely not done and still want to achieve more, but
Good.
trying to give back when I can.
That's good, man. I'm proud of you. That sounds like a great thing. I mean, I did some background on you. You got quite a bit of resume. We haven't really touched a whole lot, man. I can't believe we've been doing this for 56 minutes total, but it's been some very great information. I mean, we're tapping into quite a few things. You know, we can only talk about so much on one episode. But I'm gonna give you a few more minutes to talk a little bit about how can people reach out to you, get a social media shout for you and your services if someone want to reach out in the California area, or they may be coming through your way, or whatever the case may be. Or do you have any online stuff they can do as well, Andrew?
Yeah, no, I think I guess the first social media plugs are for Andrew Heath Basketball. It's just at Andrew Heath Basketball. That's for Instagram and Twitter. For Ball to Books, it's at Ball the
Number two.
number two books. So at Ball Two Books.
Okay.
Same thing for Instagram, and then we also for Ball to Books have a YouTube page where we do have just like free workouts and also interviews as well too. We're hoping to get you on
Oh
for
yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to it.
podcast soon as well. Um, and then yeah, there's a website for both of those, same exact spelling, andrewheathbasketball.com, balltobooks.com. You can find all the information there, and yeah, feel free to reach out to me whenever on either platform.
What about your website? Because I look, you got a nice website. You didn't talk about your website. You didn't talk about
Yeah,
that. You didn't say nothing about that.
andrewheathbasketball.com. I try to update it occasionally when there's new stuff coming up. But yeah, no, it touches on the individual sessions I'm doing, and any upcoming camps and clinics, any past interviews, articles, some old photos and videos of like playing stuff back in the day. Uh, so yeah, definitely check that out.
Okay, that's cool, man. I appreciate that. I got one last question I want to ask you, and it's the basic question I ask everyone. All these questions are normal, Andrew. I ask everyone these same questions. I catch people off guard, but you're a coach, right? You coach basketball. I coach baseball. It's still a game. We're trying to impact young people. We want to leave an everlasting change. My question to you after this is the post game question. It's called the post game. Now, this question is just for you. You only have 30 minutes left. Period. 30 minutes. Your last game of the year, whatever. You're never going to be coaching anymore, whatever the case you may be. There's one person that you want to talk to, either to help you as a player or as a coach. Who would that be? He can be dead or alive. It doesn't have to be a male. It can be a female. Whoever that person may be. And what would you say to them and why you want this person?
Man, that is a good question. Um,
But you only have 30 minutes. Then they're going to be going off to the heavens. So you got to ask. It can be dead or alive. Who would that person be?
yeah, I think in this current moment, I think it'd be my grandfather James Daniels. Um,
Okay.
just because he never got to see me play after high school or like any of the stuff after that. So I have a tattoo for him on my ribs. He was an amazing man. He a jazz musician, Hall of Fame jazz musician. Definitely learned a lot from him. But I think it would just be, um, yeah, I don't know. I don't even think the conversation would be basketball related or about the game.
What would you
But I
say
think
to him? What would you say to him?
I
You only
guess
got 30 minutes, so
yeah,
your
yeah. No,
clock's ticking.
I guess one, I'd just be like, "How do you think the game's going? You got any tips on that?" And then I think I would just ask him. It was the same thing I kind of asked my father, just about like entering fatherhood. I think as I mentioned to you off camera, I have a 1-year-old now, so I just
Yeah.
ask him questions about balancing the different dynamics of being a husband and a father, and
Yes.
lessons he's learned, and things he would double down on, things he would maybe like
Mm-hmm.
regret and change. Um,
That's good.
yeah, no, and I
That's
think
good stuff, man.
yeah, I think especially in that moment too, recognizing that, just blessed to have another 30 minutes with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think yeah, it would just be that, and then maybe just one last tip to like finish off the game with.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, because
Would
I
be cool.
mean, that's great honor. I mean, that's man. Most people don't give those answers.
Mm,
They usually don't give an answer, but I have to say that's a very honorable answer you gave. You know,
appreciate
because
that,
I
man.
asked everybody that. I mean, 65 episodes. You know, most of my episodes I ask those questions. I'm gonna read something to you because I'm gonna close it out. It's called Exodus 20, verse 12. It says, "Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee." So basically, you're honoring your grandfather, a man that you feel was a man of integrity that you wish you had another opportunity to speak to. And if all our kids did that, oh my, if
Right.
all the kids did that, because we look at, there's an old commercial back in the day for people who don't know this. Charles Barkley had a commercial. It says, "I'm not your role model." And
Right.
after you think about that, it goes back to the post game question I asked. Who would you ask? Who would you talk to? You only had 30 minutes. It could be a star, dead or alive, doesn't matter. And he talked about your grandfather, and I thought that was honorable. But I brought the word out, and I started thinking about that, and I was like, Charles Barkley made it very clear years ago. He did a commercial, and he says, "I'm not your role model." But if you think about it, it seems to be obnoxious, but it's not obnoxious. You got to realize what he's trying to say. Because
Right.
I'm an athlete and I'm a father too, but I'm not your role model, not your role model.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting that you said that, because I mean that's a very honorable thing to say, because most people don't say that. And I mean, your mom and dad, well, somebody taught you right. Somebody taught you right. That's good stuff, man. I appreciate that, man. If you can go ahead and give out a closing remark to the listeners, and where they can reach out to you one more time before, we close it out. This is very own Andrew Heath, episode 65. The guy that does pretty much almost everything. He has a nonprofit, he teaches classes, he teaches clinics, he has done it all and played overseas. A very own Andrew Heath, and I appreciated you being on. If you can go ahead and give me a closing remark.
Yeah, no, I think whoever's listening, whatever your goals or dreams are, I think just double down and lean into it. And you have to be your own biggest fan and biggest supporter. Um, yeah,
Mm.
so I think I'll leave you with that. If you want to reach out or find me, the website is andrewheathbasketball.com. The Instagram is the same thing, at Andrew Heath Basketball, and then Ball to Books is ball the number two books.com, and the Instagram is the same thing, at ball two books. So
Man, this has
appreciate
been a pleasure. This has been great, man. This has been the best. Hey, I like this. It's been a little bit late for me, but hey, I like it. This is because you've been giving some great information, and some powerful experiences that you had happened to you. Basically, you're not just throwing stuff on top of your head, like throw it against the wall. These are things that have really happened to you and how it has impacted you and changed your life. And I salute you for that. God bless you, man, and you and your wife and your kid. And I'm gonna close out. And like I do all the time. I just tell people all the time when they're listening to this episode. The question is, would you understand where I'm going? Where are you being led? The listeners, where are you being led? Whoever listens to this podcast today, this episode 65, where are you being led? We're going somewhere. Other words, where's your vision? That's what I'm trying to say. Where are you being led? LED. What do you mean by that, coach? What do you mean by that, Andrew? I'm glad you asked. In each thing that I'm asking, there's a letter for each for the word led, LED. What does L stand for? It stands for listen. Listen to everything Andrew Heath has taught you today, and myself, mostly Andrew, has taught you a lot of great things that can impact your life in basketball and baseball and football, and also most importantly in life. Because God gave us all two ears to listen, right? The L stands for listen. So I'm glad you said that. Listen. If you listen, that's where faith comes in at. Faith comes by hearing. You got to hear the right words, hear the word. And faith comes by hearing and hear the word of God. And then the next letter is E. What does E stand for, Andrew and Coach Laurie? Execute. Execute everything that Andrew just said. Because a lot of times as people, we're like Pac-Man. We don't sit back and listen to the information that God has put in your life, that God's used someone to give you information. The questions you've been asking is right in front of you. L stands for listen, E stands for execute, and the last letter is D. D stands for dominate. If you listen, execute what you heard, you should be able to dominate. This is Coach Laurie very on with Andrew Heath, episode 65. As I say all the time, God bless, never stress. I'm out. Have a great night. Take care. Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it,
You
brother.
too, man. Yeah.
All right. God bless. Bye.